The town itself. What about the town itself? If we take a stroll through the little centre of Silos, we will be able to admire some fascinating urban landscape features of considerable ethnographic value. Let's look at the old tax collectors known as the Fielato. This is not a construction of great architectural interest. What makes it interesting is the purpose for which it was built. Indeed, until about not much more than half a century ago, the villages possessed a kind of internal customs office through which products which were subject to the so-called consumption tax and which were entering and leaving were monitored and taxed. On the walls of the monastery opposite the communal washing place, there is an inscription which confirms the existence of this institution. It is written in red with capital letters reading, "The way to the Fielato." Bread baking ovens were very popular in the past, and it would be no exaggeration to say that nearly half the houses had one. Today it is possible to appreciate the charm of one such oven in the street of La Encina. Its construction is very rudimentary. It is shaped like a vault and made of adobe, which is basically a mixture of clay and sand. And it is located outside the house at the top. Around the outside of the oven there was a masonry wall, whereas the roofing was supported by strong beams and juniper posts. The communal washing place is of great interest, not only because of its material construction, but also because of its social value. The washing place takes the form of a shed with an apex roof sitting on a structure of juniper beams and posts. At both sides of the water there are large stone slabs that slope slightly towards the current. On these, the people would wash their garments with large pieces of industrial soap or with their own soap, which was made using sand, ash, and caustic soda. The offal of animals that had been slaughtered for food was also washed here. The unpleasantness of this ungratifying work would be greatly diminished by all the chattering and gossiping that would take place in the long washing sessions. All sorts of rumours and news from the village would be discussed. Silos is located in the hilly county of La Demanda, and local materials have been used in the popular architecture of the town. These are typically a limestone of gold and natural tones, wood from pine trees and junipers, and an almost brown Arab tile for the roofs. The typical Silos residence is a humble single-storey house that was shared sometimes by people and animals, whose living quarters would be separated by just a thin partition. The windows were very small to keep out the cold, and the edges of the windows were whitewashed to reflect more light inside. The most characteristic feature of the Silos house is the hooded chimney that dominated the kitchen. It would occupy the whole ceiling of the room and its huge circular opening. The chimney is conical in shape and comprises a mud-filled structure of malleable branches. The part that is visible above the roof is protected by a mixture of pieces of tile or small pieces of stone. Arcades, projections and covers to protect carts, together with some rather interesting doors, make up the so-called hidden silos. Some of these constructions are extremely humble. They are built with adobe, and the powerful rafters are made of juniper. In contrast, the stone used in the columns, the panelling, and the skillfully worked doors appear in the houses of the few noblemen who resided in Silos. The church of San Pedro de Silos, located in the district of the same name, was built in various stages, and this left a profound mark on its construction. The oldest remains of this true monument are to be found in the apsidal chapel of the Epistle, built in the early 13th century, and which now houses an altarpiece that was made around 1630 and embellished in the Churrigueresco style. Its central apse is totally Gothic. This had a great window of the period, but it was replaced 3 centuries later by a modest Renaissance rose window. The Gospel Chapel is from a somewhat later period. It was built between 1295 and 1325 and is covered with an attractive Angevin vault. It houses a limestone altarpiece One of the few examples of this material remaining from the Castile and Leon Renaissance, presided over by an image of the Virgen de la Leche, or Virgin of the Milk, which came from the old convent of San Francisco de Silos. This exceptional piece of Hispanic Flemish tradition appears to adhere to the artistic circles of Gil de Siloé. The whole building, with its nave without a transept and with modest wooden panelling on the ceiling, which is supported by thick cylindrical columns, is 16th century. Other works of interest are the statue of the Virgen del Mercado, the patron of Silos, which is 13th to 14th century, a processional Christ dating back to the first third of the 16th century, located at the foot of the church, and the superb great altarpiece from 1628, a work of Juan Montes.